Hi, it's Helen Tarrant. Welcome to an episode of Commercial Property Cash Flow with Helen and Renee. Hey. So today we're going to talk about what it takes to get into a commercial property. So we've had some couple of posts of questions about people asking us, well, what it takes to become a commercial property investor. So what do you think?
Well, look, the biggest thing that people ask us is probably how much money do I have? Like, I remember when you first come to me and you said you were going into commercial property, and I was like, oh my God, Helen, I need James Packer's legal team to even contemplate going in there. And what you do is you show us that we can get in there and how we can get in there. And it's not as crazy or as expensive as some people, realize or think. I mean, for example, myself, I've just brought my first purchase, and the purchase price on that was $65,000 on a little small office space here in Townsville. But I know it's got some risks and it's got some things with it that I have to work through. So that's another thing with commercial property is you've got to work through it. And it's like dating. It's what can you live without, and how are you going to get through it? Isn't it really?
So what I find is that there's commercial properties in any range. So Renee bought something. It's her first commercial property purchase. She's been working with us for about 18 months now, and we've finally pushed her into one. It's a different one to what normal investors would start with because it's a vacant one. But recently, at the same time, we had a staff member, my assistant down in Melbourne, Johanna, got into a property for about $170,000 in on the Gold Coast, and she's from Melbourne, and that was her first property investment. She's been with us for about 3 months when that happened. So one of the big things, we have to walk the talk, and so all of us are property investors and commercial property investors. So really to start with, you can start with something as small as $50,000. You go all the way up to multi-million dollars. But what we find with our clients is that they mostly sit under the 1 to 1.2 million, some 1 to 1.2 million, maybe even around the 500,000 when they first start out. So just to look at that is, I think it costs you about $20,000 as a deposit.
$20,000 as a deposit, and obviously you've got to have a little bit, say maybe $25,000, just to make sure that I'm ready for the next lot of rates and a few things like that. So give yourself a little bit of a buffer. Obviously, it's going to depend depending on the size of the property and how much you're spending, but it is doable. It is achievable. We both have skin in the game, and we're not going to tell you to do something that we're not doing ourselves.
Definitely. Yeah. So, and for something like for Jo to buy a $170,000 property, I think her outlay was about $50,000 as a deposit. Now, in commercial property, there's different types of loans. It depends on which loan you fit into. Now, Jo bought a property with a tenant already in there. She had Wyndham Resorts in there, so they're quite a large tenant. They're all around Australia. They use it as an office space for them. It's a very nice, airy space. It's got windows. She's got a corner office, basically. It's not very big. I think it was about 60 odd square meters for her office space. Renee's a little bit larger, but obviously hers is in regional Townsville, because that's where Renee lives. Sometimes
when
I'm
on the road, non-stop on the road.
So she's a closet Townsville resident, but she doesn't want to tell people she lives in Townsville.
Part time.
So, our first property was but that was back a long time ago, but that was a $360,000 property in North Sydney. And back then, you would get into that property for around, $70,000. So, it's different times, even though times have changed and lending has changed. Commercial property, sometimes it can actually be cheaper to buy a commercial property for your first one than a residential, especially when you're looking at Sydney and Melbourne and even Brisbane now. And if you're getting a tenanted property that has a tenant in there, you actually get positive cash flow from day one because the tenant pays you a rental and you pay the bank, and then you've got positive cash flow left over. So we're looking at a deposit for commercial property can be anywhere from 20% to about 35%, depending on what kind of loan you can access. So you can, if you have a lot of properties at the moment, huge portfolio, and you can't service your debt, then you can access what they call a lease stock loan, where they use the lease to service the debt. So that means you have to pay in a higher deposit, about 35%. But if you are self-employed, on the other hand, like Renee, who's on the road,
non-stop on the road, self-employed, So yeah.
Or if you're like me when I first started out as a beauty therapist, working as a beauty, we were also self-employed. Or if you're a cafe owner, or if you're in trade, a tradie, you could be self-employed and you have your lodging business activity statements. Then you could qualify for an 80% LVR loan. So all you need is 20% deposit. So if you're buying something that's $100,000 or $150,000, you could start out with $20,000-$30,000 as a deposit. But I always advise leaving about 5% for your buffer. Yeah, so that you've got 5% to cover stamp duties, legals, any pest and building strata searches you want to do.
Insurances or anything else. But I just want to bring us back to the point of not every building is a positive cash flow. That's where our expertise comes in there, isn't it? Because we help you get into positive cash flow. Your first purchase should not be your last purchase. And that's so important when we deal with our clients is we take you through these steps and we take you through and we make sure that your first purchase guarantees that you will continue to have longevity in the commercial property world. So your first purchase should never be your last purchase. And there are a lot of commercial properties out there, and it's knowing the difference between the ones that are going to take you places and the other ones that are going to take you nowhere.
Absolutely, and that's about picking the right type of tenants, the type of property in terms of how versatile is that property? Is it going to hold up the same rent if you had to change over the tenant? Can it be split up into two? Does it have the available amenities for the kind of tenants you want? And in the other videos, we'll talk about the different types of properties and the pros and cons of it. But in general, when you're starting out in commercial property, the first one to think about is to get a tenanted property. That way you get cash flow from day one. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, listen to the tips we have, go and check out helentarrant.com, download my ebook, find out more information, reach out to us, have a consultation so we can guide you through that journey, because this is what we specialize in. And we're passionate about changing people's lives through commercial property. So leave us some comments below, tell us what you want to know in your questions about commercial property, and let us know if you're a first time investor. So bye for now.